In the capital city of Leyndell, the great golden tree bathes its people with the divine blessings of its leaves, so close, so immense, that it is almost impossible to grasp its full magnitude. One of these leaves drifts in the wind, carried toward the Colosseum, where a long-awaited battle is about to begin. The roar of the crowd is deafening, their voices rising in anticipation of the duel. When the gates finally open, the spectators stand to their feet, welcoming the two fighters with thunderous applause and the cries of their favorites. For him, this was always the best part. The clash of steel was thrilling, but what made it all worth was the joy, the fame, the glory, the passion of his fans. He steps into the arena, scanning the silhouettes of the crowd, unable to make out a single face beneath the radiance of the Earth Tree. As he always does before every fight, he removes his hat and raises it in salute to the audience, the feathers swaying with the same restless energy burning inside him, and his smile widens as he hears them chant his name, Marais, Marais, Marais. The House of Marais was known among the nobility for two roles, neither of which had anything to do with gladiatorial combat. The cunning and clever became castellans, stewards of their lords' estates. The strong and brutal became executioners, a duty most often carried out at their own shaded castle, forever beneath the shadow of the Earth Tree. With the reopening of the Colosseums, many of the lesser houses had begun sending their champions to fight, to show their worth, their standing, and their claim to honor. After all, no one knew when the prize of a great rune might be granted to the victor. The Marais, with no prior history in the arena, chose to send a young noble of rare talent, whose weapons were as sharp and as swift as his wit. And also, as a hidden weapon, he carried the mastery of the poison that ran through the veins of his family. Thus, Mordain Marais became the first of his house to stand as a duelist. His arrival in Leyndell was, to say the least, controversial. Audiences were used to duelists of towering stature, muscles bare, wielding heavy weapons. Few took seriously this slender young noble, dressed in finery, carrying only a dagger and a whip. The laughter, the jeers, the mockery, he had expected them all. Yet, with confidence and a silver tongue, he made it clear he was no fool. Outside the arena, the people were divided. Some expected comedy, others wanted a slaughter. Some were curious, and some nobles at last felt themselves represented. But by the end of Mordain's very first match, all had received something they did not expect: spectacle. With his first victory, House Marais entered the Colosseum with triumph, winning admiration for some and fury from others. For years, the young noble remained in Leyndell, building his reputation, becoming both gladiator and idol to the people. Through victory and defeat alike, his battles were unforgettable, each one unique, each one worthy of memory. Step by step, he grew into a legend. And for every hero, there must rise a villain. From the Badlands came a barbarian, scarred by a cursed past and twisted by the horns of the Crucible. This fighter had escaped from his confinement in the city's sewers and proved himself strong enough to stand in the arena. With his axes, his war cries, and his sheer brutality, he soon became known by a single name: Warlord. Though his fury was unmatched, his battles were never personal. For him, the arena was an escape, a way to forget his pain, while still giving the crowd their blood. His entertainment, however, was unlike that of Mordain. Where Marais fought with grace, Warlord fought with savagery. Soon, the names of Marais and Warlord were spoken more than any others. The crowd demanded to see them face one another, and at last it came to pass. In a duel of opposites, the noble and the outcast, the beautiful and the monstrous, the agile and the strong. They clashed in a spectacle of skill and violence. They studied each other, found openings, shifted strategies. For a few moments they forgot who they were, for nothing mattered but survival. In an age when demigods waged war for their own desires, reshaping the world with their power, the battle of these two mortal men shone with a brilliance all its own. In the end, their struggle ended in a draw, both falling to the ground at the same time. The crowd erupted, divided in its opinions for years to come. But this would not be the last time Marais and Warlord fought. Again and again, they met in the arena, each time delivering new battles, new shows of might, sometimes one victorious, sometimes the other. Their rivalry became its own legend, attracting fighters and spectators from across the lands. Were it not for names like Radagon, Mordain, and Malenia, it might have been said that the heart of glory in the lands between lay not in the wars of demigods, but in the arena of Leyndell. For Mordain, his duty seemed complete. So long as he fought, his family's name had a place beside kings and demigods. But after some years, his kin stopped attending the duels. Their visits, already rare, ceased entirely. Only when his longtime rival, Warlord, came to him in person did Mordain learn the truth. A member of his family lay dying in the sewers. Guided there by Warlord, Mordain met a relative at death's door, who revealed the grim fate of House Marais. On the orders of the Castellan Marais, the shaded castle had taken in none other than Malenia, the demigod daughter of Marika and Radagon, grievously wounded after her battle. In offering her refuge, the castle has been consumed by scarlet rot, sinking deeper into the swamp. Though they aided her recovery and eventual departure, the house never recovered. And then came Elemer of the Briar, supposedly sent to the castle for execution. He turned on his weakened captors. Alone he slew all in his path, seizing the castle for himself, while the Marais fled in disgrace. Mordain could hardly believe what he heard. All the years he had given for his family's glory, and now there was no house left to return to. With sorrow and rage, he left Leyndell, abandoning all he had built, and traveled north to Altus Plateau. What he found was ruin. His home destroyed, his family scattered, and in the garden of statues he found Malenia Marais, broken in spirit. Marais spoke only of his conviction that sheltering Malenia had been the right choice, the service of his life fulfilled. No plea and no cry of Mordain could stir him from this resignation. Yet, seeing the fire in the young duelist's eyes, he warned him. Elemer had taken not only their home, but a Marais relic, and his telekinetic power made him an enemy few could hope to face. Mordain spent days devising ways to infiltrate the throne room, to strike Elemer by surprise, yet he knew the Castellan was right. To face such a killer alone was suicide. He thought of returning to Leyndell, of calling upon the royal guard, even the gladiators who had become his brothers. But the wars of the demigods had reached a fever pitch since the Battle of Caelid, and the capital was sealed. His departure, too, would have stained his name beyond repair. No, there had to be another way. A way to claim strength without armies or alliances. A way to raise his family's honor once more, and prove House Marais still worthy of standing beside the throne. As he gazed upon the Erdtree, the answer became clear. There was only one path forward. Mordain turned his back on the ruins of his home, leaving Malenia behind with a vow. He would return, with the key to this conundrum, a great rune. And by then, Elemer would pay for his crimes, not by the hand of an executioner, but by a champion of the arenas, the hero of House Marais.